Roy Cruz here, your life applications officer. Good to see you again. I think it's time to talk about separation. And the reason why I want to talk about separation is because there are things that we cannot argue about. The debate is not whether something is good for me or the debate is not about whether or whatever it is that you think I think about certain things. Okay? I'm allowed to think just like you, whatever I want to think about certain things. And we have a right. Now, women have a right, in most states and in most societies to do whatever they want to do with their body. If they're dumb enough to lay down with the wrong guy and have a baby, then they're allowed to abort that child because they don't feel that there's any place in their society or their lifestyle for that child. Okay? But it's wrong for me to have an opinion about gays. It's wrong for me to have an opinion about who's going to hell and who's going to heaven. It's wrong for me to have an opinion who should be in this country. Okay? And who shouldn't. Then it's wrong for me to disagree with my own skin color about anything because we're the same skin color. It's wrong for me to call something racist. But I'm a sellout if I don't call it racist. People in this country are committing themselves to lifestyles and changes that will affect us till the day the last generation that exists dies. Or the last generation that will exist, I should say, dies. I can't go to work, and if a female dresses up like a dude, but I understand that she's a female, what do I have to do now? I have to ask, does she want to be referred to as a guy or a female? And then I go to my doctors. And my doctor asks me dumb questions. Like, are you content with your body? What do you mean, am I content with my body? Are you happy being a man in a man's body? Do you feel that you are a man, or do you feel that you're a woman in a man's body? They ask me questions like this at the doctors. Do I look like I'm a woman in a man's body to you? Oh God, oh Lord, when I look in the mirror, get this, when I look in the mirror, do I look like somebody that would look in the mirror and say, hey, woo, I'm a woman in a man's body. I need to see my doctor and get some things cut. Come on, man. Come on. Oh, Lord. Oh, it's time to talk about separation. Oh, praise the Lord. This video is not to just atheists. It's to black folks. It's to Christians. It's to religious folks. It's to gays. It's to all y'all. It's to all y'all. But it's a video I've been wanting to do. So let me get right on with it. I'm just going to go right through it, and hopefully I won't be doing more talking than getting my point across. But it's going to be hard for me not to talk. I'll do a part 2, a part 3, a part 4 if I have to until I'm done. But hopefully I won't have to do that. But alright, here it is. Separation. The first separation. There's a huge separation of everything. For example, let's say we're all together, we're all having a meeting, white guys, black guys. This is how it begins. You ask me, or I ask you, I'll put it like that. I ask you, would you like a cookie? I have a bag of cookies. And when you say, yes, sure, I'll have a cookie, you come back and back and back and forth for more cookies. Meanwhile, the average person wouldn't do that. He would take a cookie because he sees himself in a social atmosphere with me. So he would take a cookie, okay, and be done with it. And then maybe if the day is really that boring, if the hours that we're together is really that boring, he might say, well, being you're asking again, yeah, I'll go on and have some more. And then, you know, one of the things that we do so that we don't waste the cookies is I say, look, there's only 5 more in here. Why don't you just take the whole bag? And then you might take the bag and you might say, hey, there's 4 more cookies in here. Would you like a couple cookies? You know, and share them with somebody else. And that's how we keep from wasting a good product. But what if I was to offer you cookies and you just kept coming back? Man, the cookies was good, man. Can I have another one? Can I have another one? And then I say, here, I give you a whole bag of cookies. And whether you're a big dude or not, you eat that whole bag of cookies. A lot of people that knew I was offering them cookies, even though they didn't want none. Whether they didn't like the cookies or they didn't want to be greedy or they were too, you know, they didn't have the guts to do what you did or whatever. You take all them cookies and eat all them cookies, everybody going to look at you like you're crazy. And they're going to try to keep a straight face when they do it. They're going to be like, you know, I remember a time when I won an award with a young white female. We won an award together back in church camp. And one of the things that she did to me that I felt was very, very downgrading for the black community or the black race. I don't consider myself part of the black community today, but back then I didn't know what all the nonsense was about. But she wasted her chicken. She was just a skinny little thing. And she wasted her chicken. And I told her, I says, are you going to waste your chicken like that? Now today I would feel it's dumb for me to ask that question. I'm a lot older today. And I've been black a lot longer. You know, And she looked at me and she said, yeah, I'm kind of finished with it. You want it? And she started pushing the plate at me like she expected me to say yes. Now, I'm thinking to myself when she did that, that was one of my first educations about what's wrong with the black community. Because I'm thinking either she is this dumb about black folks, or either black folks have been very, very dumb in eating chicken that not only did some white person already bite off of, but they just got done eating their own and they could have went up for seconds if they want. They're eating the same thing. What's this have to do with the topic? Well, this has to do with all of us being together and the huge separation. Now, one thing I want to make clear is that me separating myself from anybody doesn't tell me that you're an idiot. I just did a video on the gay cake situation and expressing how I really feel towards homosexuals. It's not about my feelings, it's about my thoughts. Okay? And where I seem to feel it really is. And then I responded today to a comment to a video that I made about the actual gay cake, the newest one, situation. And a dude couldn't wait to come on there. He got my comment about the gay cake situation mixed up with some Muslims. Okay. And I had to set him straight. I'm pretty sure the next time he sends me the next comment will be another piece of SHIT. That's probably what he'll tell me. You're a piece of. Well, okay. I hear that a lot. But the point is, I felt really bad that day of the incident with the chicken. Okay? I felt really bad. It was kind of dumb. I felt real bad for, black people making a big deal about chicken, but I felt bad about white folks making a big deal about black folks and chicken. And it changed my attitude towards chicken. You know what I'm saying? It changed my attitude towards chicken. Every time I went to eat a piece of chicken, I'm looking around. I go to KFC. And I look around to see if any white people are watching me eat my chicken in a special, derogatory way. You want to see somebody eat some chicken in a crazy way. Watch some Asians eat chicken at KFC in the Asian part of any town. You're going to see some Olympic, fast-paced, overdubbed chicken eating. Okay? Good God. Alright. So you see, separation is not about those little things that I don't consider that a huge separation, because we can all go to church together like we were doing, and the way I eat chicken might be different than the way you eat chicken. I don't consider that a huge separation. But at that moment she did that, I felt separated from her. There's a fine line between what I'm proudly separated from and things that separate us. There's a difference. I'm talking tonight about things that we proudly should separate ourselves from. The first one is separation of church and state. Just got done watching a video. One more to go with this in my opening statement. Just got done watching a video called Millennials Don't Stand a Chance. And it was about two older people that were college professors debating two young generationals that had their own blogs and were already writing and selling books and that. And of course the black woman, there was only one, thank God, there's only one black woman on there. I'm just lost. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. I'm totally lost how black folks always find a way. The name of the title was Millennials Don't Stand a Chance. And there was one black woman there, and she was there because of her credentials. And she was there because of her book writing and the fact that she was a college professor. And obviously she did some writing on the whole topic that they wanted to have a debate about. She did her own writing on it. She was probably one of the initial editors of it. But still though, how the heck she pulled the fact that there ain't enough black folks going to college like that's somebody's fault other than theirs? How she pulled that out of the hat? And then she says blacks and whites aren't communicating with each other. I went to Job Corps for 2 years. Okay? And I also went to Strayer University for over a year. Okay? I know something about why black folks aren't communicating properly or being communicated to properly by more white people. And it goes back to the same reason why this black woman felt she should have brought it up. The same reason that you brought it up is the same reason. That part of being a millennial, Miss Lady, is the reason, is something that you don't want to put in the new generation. That is why white folks are not communicating with black folks, because they're afraid, just like you did at this show that had nothing to do with that. You found a way to pull the race card at a debate that had nothing to do with black and white. And who has to pay for this? Me. People like me got to pay for this nonsense. But after she got her little black thing out of the way, I think she caught the vibe that everybody's looking at her like, should we change the title to the video? Should we change the title of the video? Why blacks don't stand a chance instead of why millennials don't stand a chance. My God, okay? It has nothing to do with separation of church and state. Separation of church and state. I believe that at one time, I should say I know, my uncle taught me these things when we already had separation of church, I believe, when I started high school, or much sooner. I forget when exactly it happened. But separation of church and state, I forget what year that was, but I know it was before I started high school, and I didn't even know that. And I agree with the atheists on this. If there's separation of church and state, there's two things going on here. Why does the churches have their claws in the government? That's one. And why does the government have their claws in the church? And atheists need to understand when they go to complaining about what's going on in the government, the church has adopted and understood, and some of us are very, very happy about the choice of separation of church and state. For the very reason that we never did, in generations before mine, appreciate the government having their claws in the church. But at the same time, separation of church and state, we're slow at taking the Ten Commandments off the walls, which I admit, as a Christian, I'm sad about that. I'm glad they're not coming down as fast as the atheists would like them to come down. But I understand that if we want the government to take their claws out of the church, we also have to take our claws out of the government. But the only clause that we had in the government was the clause that were in there because once upon a time, even the majority of Democrats were Christian. And as well as Republicans. And there might have only been one atheist or one liberal out of every classification in the White House or in, any political party. But separation of church and state, I'm okay with separation of church and state as long as you let us have our rights just like you give everybody else their rights. If separation of church and state means you tamper with our rights, then you better darn well tamper with everybody else's rights. And these new people coming up trying to have rights don't need no rights because you're busy getting rid of rights. How you gonna give somebody rights when you're getting rid of rights? We ain't got rights. The Muslims ain't got rights. The atheists ain't got rights. And any other religion don't have rights. Okay? If we can't post, neither can the atheists. If we can't be on the street and speak at public college campuses and things like that, neither should the atheists be able to do it. Dear atheists, if you really want separation of church and state to move forward, I suggest you stay off the streets, stay out of the schools except to teach math and science. Okay? Leave the religious nonsense out of your schools completely. You don't want religion in your schools? Then shut up then and quit talking about religion. Okay? You really want to be separate? Let's be separate all the way then, baby. Let's be separate all the way. Fine. No Christians on the streets. No Christians going into schools and colleges, street corners. Okay? All right, if that's what you're pushing, then you need to push that on yourself too. If you want to open up your mouth, say hello to my mouth, because I'm going to talk. And I will fight the government, and I will fight and protest until I get my spot back. So, understand, you really want separation of church and state, that applies to you too. You don't want us talking about religion? Don't talk about religion then. Religion is religion. It doesn't matter whose mouth it comes out of. Separation of Christians and the world. Now, there's two classifications of Christians. And this is what, well, that's the next one. Let's go with separation of Christians in the world. Separations of Christians in the world is the number one thing that we're hated by the most. Christianity does not mean anything without a Bible. Okay? And the Spirit expressly teaches the principles of this book, even when it's nowhere to be found. The Spirit will indeed teach us, the Christian community, about the entails in this book. Okay? Just because you burn Bibles or just because you stop us from, or talk us out of reading it does not make the principle go away. The principle is still the principles of God, and let me make that clear. But separation of Christians and the world, if we're not separate from the world, then we're not Christians. Let me say it again. If we're not separate from the world, then we're not Christians. And Christians need to understand this. Christians need to understand this. They need to understand that there's a huge separation between us and the world. And I think out of all the people that have expressed the separation when he spoke to atheists was Cy Brugenkunt. He's the only one that kept going back and saying, well, we believe the Bible and the Bible says. But when you, even Jimmy Lane Craig, or William Lane Craig, I'm sorry, I keep calling him Jimmy Lane Craig. Jimmy Lane Craig is the name of a store for fat women. I don't know why I keep calling him Jimmy Lane Craig. But anyway, William Lane Craig, oh my God, okay? William Lane Craig is, even him, he don't express the fact that I'm sorry, but we believe the Bible. Kent Hovind. And if you notice, it's the people that say, well, I believe the Bible. What's the Bible say? These are the people that get hated the most. These are the people that get hated the most. And you could be as nice. And even though a lot of people hate Joel Osteen will say, well, I believe the Bible. You know, I'm not here to condemn people, but I do believe the Bible. Well, he just condemned people. Because according to the Bible, they are condemned. Okay? And Christians need to quit trying to get out of it. The world is condemned. The world is full of sin. This world is not our home. We're just passing through. Stop trying to act like you can find a soft way to tell people But we are pilgrims in this strange land, the earth, not just this country, this whole world. Anybody that's a Christian, okay, is an enemy of the world. You got to understand that. And Christians seem to forget that. They think that they can talk Bible to people and try to apologize for what they believe. And that's my version of apologetics. Because, why am I explaining this to you if you're not a subscriber? Let me repeat that. Why am I explaining this to you if you are not a subscriber? Why? There's no reason for me to explain it to you if you're not a subscriber. But we Christians, true Christians, if that's what we are, and those of us that are, we are separate from the world. We're not fornicators. Okay? What does that mean? That means that we don't believe in having girlfriends. Okay, let me get to the point. If I have a girlfriend, that means that I pick her up at her place, I take her out to dinner, and I take her back to her place. She's my girlfriend because she's the only woman right now that I'm taking out on dates. But I have no rights over her. I cannot demand, no, she's not going to bring me lunch at work. Unless she's just wanting to do something nice for me on Valentine's Day. She's not going to bring me lunch at my job every day. No, I don't know if I want to take her to see my family just yet. But when I propose to her, then maybe if she wants to, she can bring me lunch at work every day. Maybe, it's time for her to meet my children. It's time for her to meet the rest of my family. It's time for her to know my ex-wife. Okay? But until she agrees to be my wife, a lot of things ain't her business. And a lot of things of hers ain't my business. Okay? I don't expect anything out of her until the day that I put a ring on her finger. Okay? And, if she's sexually active while she's in a date world, then you go out there and you find guys that you can be sexually active with. That's between you and God. You go out there, you find guys you can be sexually active with. Okay? And when you get done with the world, then maybe we can try again, you and I. But I'm a man of God. Huge separation. Oh, huge separation. You ain't met a Christian until you find one that ain't never got a girlfriend. And I'm not talking about looks. I'm not talking about desires. I'm talking about law and respect of that biblical law. We do not practice fornication. That's the first way you know the difference between a Christian and somebody that just calls himself a Christian. We don't get laid. Okay? Christians don't get laid. Unless you want to use that term for their honeymoon. We don't get laid. We don't go out on Saturday night and bump and grind and take some girl home and get some. Huge separation that none of y'all understand. You don't seem to get it. And I can name 100 problems that will go away to anybody that gives up on fornication. Okay? So there's a big separation between Christians and the world. Christians only marry Christians. A Christian doesn't marry a Muslim. A Christian doesn't marry a non-Christian. A Christian doesn't marry an atheist. A Catholic might marry an atheist, but a true Christian wouldn't be caught dead standing before God with a non-Christian woman, because you can't take her to the new world with you. So what you marrying her for? You can't take her with you. But you marry a Christian, you'll see her in the next life. But more importantly than that, belongs to this earth. We don't fornicate. And we only marry within our own peculiar culture, our own peculiar race. And I'm not talking about black folks. I'm not talking about Jewish people. I'm talking about Christians. The Bible says we are a peculiar people, a peculiar race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. We are separate from all these other people. I have no problem admitting that I'm biased or I'm against religion. I'm against atheism, abortion, gay marriage. What part of me being a Christian don't you understand? That's not our culture. We don't mix with that stuff. And there's a lot of people out there calling themselves Christians. They're going to try to reread the Bible to me in 100 different translations to try to get. I saw this Catholic lady doing it. I watched a Catholic video yesterday where this Catholic lady was trying to explain to me why it's okay today to be gay. But yesterday it wasn't. Nice try. It's going to take a miracle for me to suck that one up. Got nothing against homosexuals. But when people do like this lady to do, like this woman does, try to lie to the church. Yeah, you doing right, you Catholic. Keep that mess in the Catholic Church. Don't bring it here. That's where we fight. The war is not between us and atheists. The war is between us and people like her, who calls herself a Christian. But in 100 translations, she could not show me where it says anything that was coming out of her mouth. You want to see me contend for the faith, atheist? Put that woman in my face. And I'll do more than argue scripture with her. I will call her, okay, a whore on her way to hell. If you feel that you must accept things that are not of this Bible, then you do that outside of the family. You do that outside of the faith. You don't bring that nonsense into the faith. In Jesus' name. I'm going to do a part 2 of this. I have 3 more that I would like to discuss. But that was 1 and 2. Separation of church and state, separation of Christians and the world. And I got them in order here. Stay tuned for part 2. It was nice talking to you. Thanks for watching. You may leave a comment, but again, when you leave a comment, understand there's a huge separation. It does not matter what you say in retaliation, because there's a huge separation. Okay? It's not my wall that you need to break down and break through or climb over. It's the separation. that we're defending, that we will not let you break through to. Okay? To us, especially when we are trying to raise children and grandchildren, homosexuality and these new millennials, the whole transgender, the LGTBQ thing, and all these new cultures that the atheists are trying to defend. This stuff is poisonous to us. And whenever I see a Christian go on a debate with an atheist, and he doesn't preach the Word of God and walk out the door and say, this is my final answer. Y'all can laugh all y'all want to, like Cy Bridgencunt said. You can laugh all you want to, but this is my final answer. You know what? If you can't do that, guess what? To me, you have a flu. You have a disease. Don't bring them bloodborne pathogens my way. Keep that over there. Because this is the final word. Oh, sure, we can argue back and forth. And hopefully you'll learn something that might make you want to reconsider. But you know what? If you don't reconsider, that's fine, because I'm not going to reconsider. This is the final authority. Huge separation. Thank you for watching. I will talk to you in the next video, part 2 of this. See you soon, Lord willing.